We're almost 80% of the way through the reveals, and we finally got an answer to the mystery behind the card numbering, so let's check it out. What's up, Illuminators? It's Charlie and Mateus back, and we have, I think, probably the most cards we're going to be talking about in a single reveal video. Definitely. There were so many in the last few days, which is really exciting. But first, let's start off with something interesting for our European friends. Moana 2 is going to be reaching cinemas in November, and for select countries, Odeon is going to be giving away an exclusive Moana promo card. This is going to be available for the UK, Ireland, Portugal, Germany, Italy, Spain, Norway, Sweden, and Finland. So if you attend an Odeon showing of Moana 2, you're going to be getting this promo card. We suspect this is going to be a card announced this set at some point, but yeah.
We're going to get more details soon, but of course, this is while stocks last. So make sure to go watch that movie straight away if you are in one of those countries.
And with that said, let's look at the card reveals.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we're starting off in Amber, and we have Nani, Caring Sister. A 5-cost inkable, 3/5 that quests for 2. She has support, and she has the ability I Am So Sorry. Pay 2, chosen character gets -1 strength until the start of your next turn. I think this is an okay card. It's an okay ability. In the 5-cost slot, the stats aren't really the best. I'm not so sure about her ability either, since you can really only activate it on turn 6. Or you play her on turn 7 and you play her and activate the ability. But essentially, she's kind of like a very expensive ice block.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not very sure if I would ever use a card like this on Number, maybe in the future. But what is cool is this card came with a bunch of new Stitch cards.
Yes.
So we're going to look at that as well.
So David is joining the game. This is David Impressive Surfer, a 3-cost inkable, 3/3 that quests for 1, with the ability showing off while you have a character named Nani in play, this character gains +2 lore. So I always love seeing these cards that interact with each other. A 3/3 that quests for 3 lore is actually pretty crazy. It's like similar to something like Poo Piglet Pirate, who's a 2/2 that quests for 3 if you meet his condition.
But of course, that will mean a very specific card as well to be met, right? While Poo is any other 2 characters,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
The Piglet. So I'm also not very convinced. I do love the card, I love the art, and it gives me a little bit of a Surfer Stitch vibe, so I'm all for that.
Yeah. But for sure, it's going to be fun when we start building some Stitch themed decks.
I can't wait. We can finally do some Stitch themed decks.
And speaking of Stitch theme, we're going to keep up with the Stitch reveals. This is Scrump. This is a 2-cost inkable item with the ability I Made Her. Exert one of your characters. Chosen character gets -2 strength until the start of your next turn. So like I said, Nani was kind of like a bad ice block. This is another bad ice block, having to exert a character to be able to give a character some minus strength. Perhaps in maybe a Ruby Amber deck where you're using stuff like Medusa and Brawl. I always say that when I see a strength reduction in Amber. But I don't know, it doesn't feel like this is going to be the best card this set. But an Amber card that I do think is going to be really interesting is Tiana Restaurant Owner. She's a 3-cost uninkable 1/4 that quests for 2 with the ability Special Reservation. Whenever a character of yours is challenged, whilst this character is exerted, the challenging character gets -3 strength this turn unless their player pays 3. So there's a lot there, a lot to unpack there, but essentially, when Tiana is exerted, any characters challenging will either have to have their strength reduced by 3, or they will have your opponent will have to pay 3 ink in order to use their full strength. Basically, if your opponent has a Maui and they choose not to pay that 3, then Maui is only going to be doing 3 damage rather than 6. So it really does kind of give a boost for aggro decks to be able to kind of take some of the wind out of the sails of their opponent.
And that's for all characters as well, right? So you're literally doing the power into the board, right? That's super cool. It's also worth saying that's the first Amber Legendary cards announced. So there's one more to go. But I'm so happy with this. The similar pose as the Ukulele Player. With Naveen in the previous set. They finally have the pairing of the Legendary ones. And I hope she gets an Enchanted.
Yeah. Yeah, really excited about Tiana. I think this is going to be a great card in aggro. Maybe you'll see her show up in some of the decks as well, but very cool card. Next up, we have Monterey Jack, Good-Hearted Ranger, a 4-cost inkable 0/7 that quests for 2 vanilla. So this is the first time we're seeing this stat line on a character. He's basically McDuck Manor, but he can sing songs, but he's not safe from things like Be Prepared. One of the cool things about these characters with a high willpower in Amber is that they're great targets for something like Rapunzel. He could safely, even a Maui, right? You could challenge a Maui with him, put the 6 damage, and then play Rapunzel to heal him. So I think in that sense, he's good there. Of course, he is answered by kind of all of Ruby's removal, the Brawls, the Baby Sisus, the Medusas, the big Sisus. So he's maybe not as relevant in certain decks, but maybe in like an aggro deck where you're really relying on Rapunzel for your card draw, he could be a good option there. Next, we have Mr. Litwick, Arcade Owner, a 3-cost inkable, a 2/3 that quests for 1, with the ability The Gang's All Here. Once during your turn, whenever you play another character, you may ready this character. He can't quest or challenge for the rest of the turn. Very interesting and cool ability. This is really the first time where we're seeing something like this with the condition of readying the character when another character is played. Very simply, you can quest with him and then play another character to protect him, but you can also do funky things with him, like having him sing Strength for Raging Fire, or questing, readying him, and then being able to string Strength for Raging Fire again, or another 3-cost song. So I think there is a bit of utility there. Definitely in limited formats, he's going to be a really good card because you can protect him, and it might be a little bit difficult for your opponent to remove him, especially because you're going to be playing a different card every turn.
Do you think that we'll see that a lot in Steel Song? Do you think that's almost like a card that everyone will run? Or not necessarily?
Right now, I don't see it. I think it's going to be in certain decks.
Okay.
I don't think his stats are the best, but it's certainly an interesting interaction that's available. Up next, and as I think many people predicted, we do have a Pirate Winnie the Pooh. This is Winnie the Pooh, Honey Pirate Lookout. He's a 2-cost, uninkable, 2/2 that quests for 1. He has support, and he has the ability where pirates you see, whenever this character quests, the next pirate character you play this turn costs 1 ink less. So firstly, super cute card. We were all really excited for this Pirate Pooh to make it into the game, and here he is. The art on this is absolutely amazing from Coney. In terms of the ability, it's nice that he has the support. It gives him a little bit of extra utility, so he can quest, reduce the cost of a pirate character, and give support. In terms of pirate characters you could play, naturally we're seeing the Pooh Pirate Crew, so those could be good options. Things like Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain, being able to play him for 1 is really cool. But is Winnie the Pooh going to see play in the wider sense? I think really he's like a less good Doc. Doc, of course, 3-cost inkable, but he quests for 2. He has that little bit extra willpower, and he's reducing the cost for any character. It's not just a pirate, so I think this is maybe a little bit too specific.
Yeah. And I'm going to bet again that if he doesn't get a legendary, I think this card will still get an enchanted. I feel like we're hoping for the Pooh sings the Honey Wizard on Floodborn. So let's hope. He's just so cute.
And joining Pooh, we have Kanga, Nurturing Mother. She's a 3-cost uninkable, a 2/4 that quests for 1, with the ability Safe and Sound. Whenever this character quests, choose another character of yours, and that character can't be challenged until the start of your next turn. A very interesting ability. This is the first time we're kind of seeing this effect, where you can prevent a character from being challenged. You might ask yourself, why would you want to do that rather than readying a character, as we saw with something like Sven? And to be honest, I was like, isn't it better to ready a character? But one of the things we realized is that there is a card we're going to see later that specifically targets readied characters. So this is potentially, if that is a mechanic that gets kind of expanded on, then it is certainly a way to counter that. Just being able to have a character exerted and being able to not have it challenged is very good. I saw online people were saying, well, could you just do this to a bodyguard and then all of your characters would be protected? But no, remember, bodyguards only have to be challenged if able. If they can't be challenged, then you nullify their effects. So
pretty much just using this card for no reason at all to apply to a bodyguard.
Don't use Kanga to do this to a bodyguard.
And if you want to know more about bodyguards, we have our guide to a bodyguard video just up here. Go check it out. We have all the information for you there.
So that'll do us for Amber. So we can update the tracker now down there. Amber getting pretty full. We saw so many cards in the last few days.
Oh god, it's exciting.
So kicking us off in Amethyst, we have Make Some Magic. This is a 3-cost inkable action. Move 1 damage counter from chosen character to chosen opposing character. Draw a card. So drawing a card is super nice. I think other than that, there are probably better cards you can be playing in Amethyst, unless you're building a deck all about moving damage. Right now, there isn't really a big payoff for moving damage, other than being able to take out some targets, but so it's nice you're drawing a card, but other than that, I don't think I have much to say about this one.
Even Finders Keepers is a better option, isn't it? You could draw 3 cards. Is that a cost 3?
No, it's a cost 5.
Cost 5? Okay, so maybe not as much as the better. You get 2 more cards at cost 5. Yes, I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I think certainly in limited formats, if you see this in draft, certainly grab it. Being able to draw a card and maybe take out a target threat is super good, but other than that, I'm not so convinced. A card that I do think is a little bit more interesting though is Maleficent Staff. This is a 2-cost inkable item with the ability Back Fools. Whenever one of your opponent's characters, items, or locations is returned to their hand from play, gain 1 law. So basically making your opponent's characters into goats, which is really interesting. So there are ways, of course, Amethyst has to be able to return characters to hand, the classic one being Befuddle. So you could do that. But certainly this pairs very well with Emerald. We've seen things like the Muses that can return characters to your opponent's hand. We've seen the Emerald Chromacon, which got used on me a lot during my set championships, and it is a pain. So I could definitely see a build maybe where you can combine Maleficent Staff and Emerald Chromacon. I think the only issue is it is a little bit slow. Like having to play this on 2, play Chromacon on 3 is maybe not going to be ideal, but maybe is a later game thing to help close a game. And also if your local metagame is just full of Ruby Amethyst bound shenanigans, you can always have this as a tech card to be getting advantage out of that.
That's kind of how I was seeing it, at least before when there were so many Ruby Amethyst deck. I feel like this is a way to say, stop doing it, you're going to be penalized by that. And it's also the keyword here is whenever, right? So it could happen so many times. And as an item, not everyone has in their deck ways to remove an item. Yeah. So I like it,
Yeah, it's just a shame that they print like tech cards in the color that's teching for, right? So it'd be nice to see in a different color. Next up, we have Scar, Tempestuous Lion, a 6-cost uninkable 4/4 that quests for 2. He has Rush and he also has Challenger +3. So a very powerful card. He can come out of the gate swinging for 7 strength, which is quite a lot. But 6-cost uninkable, it's a very, very expensive card to be having in the deck. Reminds me a lot of Rafiki Shaman Duelist that we saw from the previous set. Of course, his stats are way better because he's got a base 4/4, whereas Rafiki was 1/4 and only got his effect on play, but Rafiki's a 4-cost versus a 6-cost. And Rafiki didn't see much play, so will Scar see much play? I'm not so sure. But another one, as always, that's going to be really good in Limited, I think, as a way to really drop a bomb and deal with some of your opponent's board.
And there are 2 cards we will even talk about just next, about Sorcerer Synergy. So it's cool that Scar's coming on its Sorcerer form. Yeah. Obviously, again, if you compare with Rafiki, he is Sorcerer, so that's your other version of that.
That is true.
But it's cool. It's actually very exciting to start to see him falling under the categorization. And I think there could be some cool synergy coming along.
For sure. And so, as Matthias said, speaking of sorcerers, we have Seeking the Half Crown. This is a 5-cost uninkable action. For each sorcerer character you have in play, you pay 1 less to play this action. Draw 2 cards. So drawing 2 cards at a 5-cost uninkable doesn't seem the best, but there are loads of sorcerers in the game. That we have low-cost sorcerers, we have staples of Amethyst like the Merlins, the Mims, all of which are sorcerers. So if you're able to establish an early board full of sorcerers, then you could be playing this action very, very cheaply. Is it better than Friends on the Other Side? Absolutely not. I think it's going to be a very slow game if you're just setting up your board with those sorcerers. Is it better than Finders Keepers? Finders Keepers is seeing a resurgence at the moment because it can't be grabbed by Ursula. I think the risk of Seeking the Half Crown over Finders Keepers is Finders Keepers you can ink it if you can't use it. Seeking the Half Crown, if every sorcerer you play on the board just gets removed, then you're eventually just going to have to pay this for ink, and it's going to be very expensive for 2 cards. So I think probably until something like Friends on the Other Side gets rotated out of the format, you're just going to play that instead. Okay, a really cool card actually. This one is Diablo Obedient Raven, a 1-cost inkable 0/1 that quests for 1 with the ability Fly My Pet. When this character is banished, you may draw a card. Of course, another Diablo, another shift target for Diablo Devoted Herald is always good. At a 1-cost, that's always going to draw you a card when it's banished, I think is a very, very good thing. We can compare it to Magic Brimmer Luminary Keeper, who is a card that a lot of Amethyst decks run in that 1-drop slot, who is conditional draw. He might get removed before you're ever able to draw a card, whereas Diablo, you're guaranteed to draw a card. I think the lack of strength maybe isn't even that much of a bad thing, really, because he is out there just to put on some early pressure and to get you that card back. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really good one. I think it's certainly, again, I'll say it again, in limited formats, that guaranteed card draw is going to be really, really powerful for you. Next up, we have a card Matthias is very excited about. This is Mad Hatter Eccentric Host, a 1-cost inkable, a 1/1 that quests for 1. With the ability, we'll have to look into this. Whenever this character quests, you may look at the top card of chosen player's deck, put it on the top of the deck or into their discard. So very cool ability there. It has 2 functions really. It functions a little bit for yourself to filter your deck. If you're looking for a specific card, you can use that. But probably what you're going to be using it for mostly is to milling your opponent, to remove cards from their deck. We already saw a few actions specifically around Alice in Wonderland. So we saw the Mad Hatter's Teapot item, which mills cards from your opponent's deck. We saw an action as well. So here we go. Here's another one that is going to let you remove cards from your opponent's deck. And I think, the mill archetype is certainly coming this set.
Coming.
We'll have to see how powerful it is. Yes. But very cool.
And it's all about Alice. I actually saw on internet a post about what if you synergize this up with Merlin's Cottage as well, more on the meal archetype, because you know what is coming. Then you can decide, now I will quest and I will discard the card. I mean, it's just giving you the information that you already have as a way, but it works as a discard tool more than anything.
Yeah.
But then again, you could just use the Mad Hatter's teapot as well for that. But that's cool.
Yeah, I like to see it. I mean, I like to see it now. I don't know if I'm gonna like to see it when
it's using against you. Yeah. And I think that's gonna be enchanted as well.
Okay.
I'm calling out too many enchanted, but I don't think I just want it to be an enchanted. Yes.
And then next we have Juju, Mamarodi's Companion, a 2-cost inkable 1/2 that costs for 1, with the ability Bee's Knees. When you play this character, move 1 damage counter from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So kind of functioning like a Baby Bell. We've seen this with other cards as well, being able to move the damage counters on play. Hasn't really seen its full potential. I think what we need is like a payoff for that. Like every time a damage counter is moved, you draw a card or something like that. Probably that would be too broken. But yeah, just something that will pay this archetype off, because right now I think it's just a little bit underwhelming. But I love the card.
Voodoo Mama Juju.
That's exactly what I thought. Voodoo Mama Juju. There's been a murder in Savannah. And the next card we have is the March Hare Absurd Host. A 4-cost inkable, a 2/3 that quest for 2, rush. And this one, it is what it is. It's an okay card. I honestly just think about Super Goof, really. A card that I know Matthias loves. He's a 2/4 quest for 1, but he does gain 2 law when he challenges, so I think he has the surprise factor. But I mean, maybe if he had evasive or something, just say he would survive. But if you rush him in, challenge something, you're exerted, you're not really going to be able to get much use out of the 2 law. But beautiful card. Anyway.
Amazing, and again, looking forward to playing the Alice deck, right?
Yeah.
So should we update the tracker?
Let's do it for Amethyst.
Loads again, over there. Over there.
So we're going to go over to Emerald, and we'll start with the card that's going to cause a lot of people some problems when they're organizing their binders. This is Stitch, Little Trickster, a 2-cost inkable 1/3 that costs for 1 with the ability Need a Hand. Pay 1, this character gets +1 strength this turn. So this is the card that's going to be throwing off your organization a little bit, because Stitch is going to be an Emerald card. That's going to be an Amber because he's in slot number 26. The reason being is, of course, Stitch is Experiment 626. So this is set 6 in the 26th slot. And that's why he's an Amber. That's why he's going to throw off all of your binder organization.
He's a trickster for sure.
He is a trickster. So I think that's like a super interesting choice by the designers.
That is a good word. Yeah. Very interesting choice. But let's talk about what this card does.
Yeah, in terms of what this card does, it's very interesting. I think it kind of... at a 2-cost 1/3 with that option to be able to give him more strength, it's very reminiscent of Prince Eric, Dashing and Brave, being able to do more damage when challenging. Things to say about this is you do have to pay 1 to get some extra strength, so there is that downside, but
it is a stackable.
It is a stackable effect, exactly. You don't need to exert or anything, so if you have 8 ink available, you can give Stitch +8 so that he's a 9/3, which could be quite powerful in certain situations. He is, of course, a shift target as well for Stitch Rockstar if you're playing in like an Emerald Amber Lilo and Stitch deck, or an Emerald Amber aggro deck, potentially with that as well. So he does have that going for him. And he is an alien, so he's going to synergize with some of those other cards that we saw.
That's true. And he is beautiful.
Yeah.
He's so cute.
Yeah. Next, we have You Came Back. This is a 3-cost uninkable action, ready chosen character. It's always really cool to see these cards that ready a chosen character without the condition that they can't do something. So there's a lot of possibilities here. You could have something like Ursula Deceiver of All sing 4 times rather than 2. You could have a character quest twice. Like you could use this to target something like a Big Cusco, maybe a Flynn Rider who has 4 law. So that there are a lot of options there. Of course, you have to compare it to Fan the Flames. If you're just using it to ready a character, Fan the Flames is a 1-cost inkable that does that. So I think you are going to want to be able to use the character again after it.
Yeah.
But it does open up some definite fun strategies you can use with this.
You can use it on your opponent as well, right? You can ready that Diablo for that 1 turn.
That is
so
very
they don't
true.
draw.
That is very true. Or you can ready them to use the John Silver card we're going to see
exactly.
later.
The ping it. Exactly.
Yeah, but I do like this one. We'll have to see kind of what can become of it.
I find hard. I already find expensive, and then it's an inkable as well. So I'm a bit unsure. But usually, I mean, it's on the rare side.
Imagine you use it, you build a Sapphire Emerald deck and you use it with Mufasa. So you quest Mufasa, ready the ink, use the ink, ready Mufasa quest, and there could be some crazy stuff there. But we'll have to see what people build with that. Next, we have Alistair Cray, Ambitious Entrepreneur, 3-cost inkable, 2/4 deck quest for 1, with the ability An Eye for Tech. When you play this character, if an opponent has an item in play, gain 1 law. And Matthias, which film is this from? Because not everyone remembers.
Big Hero 6.
Yeah,
this is the one you think is a villain. He turns out not to be a villain. He's not the best person either, but he's not the villain.
He's not the villain. So yeah, so Alistair Gray. This is an interesting one. It is a little bit situational, like a 2/4 questing for 1 in the 3-cost slot is actually okay stats, but really if you're playing an opponent who doesn't have any items, you're not really going to be getting much use out of his ability. He is inkable though, so if your opponent's not playing items, you can ink him. But I do think there are probably better cards you can be playing in the 3-drop slot.
I do wish it was per every single item. That would be such a threat against Sapphire, right? If you come with the card. But he's an inventor, so again, some synergies coming there.
That's true, that
is
is
Hero
true.
6, but I'm not convinced either.
Next up, we have Transport Pod. This is a 1-cost inkable item with the ability Give Him a Show. At the start of your turn, you may move a character of yours to a location for free. At the start of every turn.
It's freaking insane.
Which is really crazy. So we did see Sugar Rush Speedway Finish Line, which is a new card that has a move cost of 6. So in an Emerald Amber locations deck, you could use this to move a character there for free, which would be really great. One of the interactions that was pointed out online is with the Queen's Castle. So actually, the Transport Pod and the Queen's Castle are both start of turn effects, and you could choose to resolve them in the order you want. So you could resolve the Transport Pod first, move a character into the Queen's Castle, and then you'll be able to draw a card off the Queen's Castle. So that is some really interesting synergy there as well. We know Amethyst, Emerald do like to use Queen Castle. Less so nowadays, but I think it is a possibility in those decks as well moving forward, because that is quite a strong interaction to be able to be moving the characters in there for free to draw cards.
And if you want to know more about the order of events that Charlie is describing, we did a video about Guide to Debug. So just go check it out, the link just above. You can understand all the whenevers at the start of your turn.
And it was actually really helpful for me making the video because I learned about all of these things. So
I forgot half of it, but we learned a bunch.
But hopefully you do too. And next we have Myrtle Edmonds, Lilo's Rival, a 1-cost inkable, 1/3 that quest for 1 vanilla. Not too much to say about this card. It is hilarious to see Myrtle in the game before a lot of other main characters for Lilo and Stitch were revealed, but seeing Lilo's Rival is really great.
People are saying they should be the Fight Club with her and Lilo in that scene, that we have this version.
And then next we have Megabot. This is a 2-cost uninkable item with 2 abilities. Happy Fist, this item enters play exerted, and Destroy. Exert, banish this item, choose 1, banish chosen item, or banish chosen damaged character. So of course it does have the downside of entering play exerted, so you often aren't going to be able to use this on the turn you play it unless you have something that readies items. But being able to basically pay 2 to banish a chosen damaged character could be quite strong. We saw that with Anna, Diplomatic Queen, being able to do that when she enters play. I think there are more efficient ways to banish chosen items, if I'm honest, like a Bendra or something like that in Emerald Steel, but it does give options for maybe ink pairings that don't have that item removal. But yeah, not much to say. Next, a character I've been hoping to see for the longest time, and we finally have her. This is Olivia Flavisham, the Toymaker's Daughter, a 2-cost uninkable, 1/1 that quest for 3. Basically, if you wanted Pinocchio in Emerald, here she is. This is it. So I think this is a very strong card. Of course, Emerald is one of those ink colors that tends to lean more toward the aggro side of things. So another strong aggro threat.
You get aggro, you get aggro, you get aggro. Everyone is getting aggro. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm just so happy she's here.
I want more Olivia.
Me too, for sure.
Just give us more, because she is the cutest
Floodborn
character.
Olivia, imagine that.
And finishing us up in Emerald, we have Galactic Communicator, a 2-cost uninkable item with the ability Resource Allocation. Pay 1, banish this item, return chosen character with 2 strength or less to their player's hand. This is just okay. I think there are better ways in Emerald to return a character to their player's hand than having to essentially pay 3 and banish an item. So I'm not so sure about this one.
Me neither.
Okay, so let's update the tracker for Emerald.
You're like looking for me. It's over there. I do want to, while we're updating the tracker, just a big shout for the tracker you're seeing. Obviously, because of us tracking the actual numbers, we had to stick Emerald with Emerald, and Umber with Umber, so that's why Stitch is not among them, as we explained. But obviously, as you know, he belongs in that slot, 26. Let's go straight to Ruby next.
Okay, and starting us off, we have Minnie Mouse Pirate Lookout. This is a 3-cost, uninkable, a 3/2 that quests for 1, with the ability Land Ho. Once during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may return a location card from your discard to your hand. Very nice ability. Which locations really you're going to be looking for? Ones I can think of really, Sugar Rush, Speedway Finish Line, because that's a location you need to banish to get its effect. So you could use Minnie to recur it. You could use her to get things back like the Queen's Castle, like the library if they're banished. So it is a shame she's uninkable because, you know, maybe it's going to prevent you being able to run a full set of her just because of her stats.
That is true. This is the one that we seen when they were first hinting Azurite Sea, right? There was a set of cards hidden behind each other. I think that's partially one of them. And I was telling Charlie, so I saw the image, I was like, this art is so beautiful, the light is so beautiful. And then I look at down there, Alice Pisoni, again, we're just such huge fans, right? It's so vibrant and beautiful. So good job again.
Yeah, very cool. And contender for maybe best card of the set so far, and certainly the hilarious.
The most hilarious.
We have Maui Half Shark, a 6-cost inkable, 7/5 that quests for 1. He has evasive as if he needed it, and he has 2 abilities. The first one is Chee-hoo! Whenever this character challenges another character, you may return an action card from your discard to your hand. And he has the ability Wayfinding. Whenever you play an action, gain 1 lore. So first of all, crazy stats. Crazy that he has evasive as well.
Crazy that he is inkable.
Crazy that he's inkable. Yeah, if you thought the other Maui had good stats, yes. I think this Maui is really good. You could definitely pair him with something like the Vitalosphere in maybe a Ruby Sapphire deck to be able to get him out and rush and immediately get an action back. He's going to synergize super well with things like How Far I'll Go, so you'll be able to use that, get it back, ramp some more. Of course, with Be Prepared. So I think really any Ruby deck can make use of Maui. He is, of course, his stats are crazy, so it's going to be hard to get him off the board in most cases. Could work very well in a deck with Robin Hood Sharpshooter. That's a deck that wants to be playing actions. It's a deck that wants to be putting stuff into your discard pile, and Maui is a way to get it back out. So I think this card has a lot of upside, and I'm really excited to see what the community are able to build with
I think that's the one that people are the most excited, on paper at least. But it's interesting, obviously, there's always an expiration behind it, because you have to challenge, you're likely damaging yourself.
Yeah.
So after 2-3 turns, maybe you're gone. Hopefully you have some resisting plays and survive, but super cool. It's interesting to see him in his half shark form as a legendary.
Yeah. And joining Maui, we have Moana Kakamora Leader. She's a 7-cost inkable, 6/5 at that quest for 1. She has a Floodborn, so she can shift in at 5. And she has the ability Gathering Forces. When you play this character, you may move any number of your characters to the same location for free. Gain 1 lore for each character you moved. So another very cool one. She can, of course, move herself because she'll be in play by that point. And she has so many keywords on her. She's like a John Silver in terms of the amount of keywords. She's a hero, princess, pirate, and captain. Right now, the only downside I see is that there aren't that many great shift targets for her. We have the 3-cost Moana in Amber. We have a 4-cost Moana in Ruby. So you're not really being able to save that much ink at the moment if you shift her. So hopefully we're going to have some low-cost Moana characters to shift onto soon. But I do think this card is very, very interesting. I would love to see the location deck that's built using her. And our Kakamora leader needs some Kakamoras. So we have another one. This is Kakamora Pirate Pitcher. A 2-cost inkable, 1/3 deck quest for 1. And this Kakamora has the ability Dizzying Speed. When you play this character, chosen pirate character gains evasive until the start of your next turn. It is a bit of a niche ability. In a pirate focused deck, it will be really cool, but other than that, not much to say. And the Kakamoras are going to be traveling in style on the Flotilla Coconut Armada. This is a 2-cost uninkable location. Has a move cost of 2. It has a willpower of 6. And it has the ability Tiny Thieves. At the start of your turn, if you have a character here, all opponents lose 1 lore and you gain lore equal to the lore lost this way. So it's going to be a fun card for multiplayer if you want to be doing one of those lore draining decks. Very cool. The thing I think about the Flotilla is actually when we worked on the Moana game, there was a level on the Flotilla which was really, really fun. Really, really difficult as well.
Very difficult.
But yeah, so really cool location. I don't know if it'll see much competitive play currently, unless we do see the development of that lore draining archetype. But for sure, in multiplayer, in social play, this one looks like a lot of fun. Next up, we have Michael Darling, Playful Swordsman, a 1-cost inkable, a 2/2 that quests for 1 vanilla. He is a pirate, so he is going to fit nicely into pirate decks in the 1-drop slot, but not much to say other than that. Super cute though,
cute.
yeah.
Yes.
Next, we have Longboat. This is a 2-cost uninkable item with the ability to take it for a spin, pay 2, chosen character of yours gains evasive until the start of your next turn. So for me, really, this is just kind of like a worse Maui's Fishhook. It is 1 cheaper, but Maui's Fishhook is inkable, so if if it's not the right matchup for you, you can get rid of it.
And Maui gives you a lot of different synergies with Maui himself, or even other options.
Exactly. And there's more choice in the in the Maui's Fishhook.
The difference is Maui, you have to exert. This one you don't exert, so you can use that to many evasive characters.
That is very true. That's
a big difference.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
But even so, I don't know. I just feel like you don't really want to use the 2-drop slot for it. But the fact you can use it multiple times, very cool.
And that's from this boat is from Treasure Planet.
This is from Treasure
Planet.
We're
in doubt between like Moana or Treasure Planet, but it is Treasure Planet.
It is Treasure Planet. Next up, we have Pete Swashbuckler, or
I don't know what is harder to say, Swashbuckler or Gambadigliano.
There we go.
I don't know.
Some Italian for you. He's a 3-cost inkable, 5/2 that quest for 1. And really, the only thing I have to say is Michael Darling could banish this character if he wanted to, because he only has the two willpower. So he does hit hard.
He does.
But there are a lot of characters who can take him down. He's more of like a location killer.
This is my favorite Pete.
It's amazing, the art.
It's so good. It looks like something you would see in one of the portraits in the bay, the hotel.
The Newport Bay.
Newport Bay. Yeah, it's just amazing.
So cool. I want this like on a frame.
I want as well. Yeah.
And we have another item now. This is Card Soldier Spear, a 1-cost inkable item with the ability, a suitable weapon, your damaged characters get +1 strength. So we did see, I think in the previous set, like quite a few cards that were kind of giving damaged characters advantages, mainly strength. We saw that with Ratigan Party Crasher. So that is something else if you're building one of those decks. But not much to say about
I
this
actually quite like this one. You don't think it's going to be that helpful?
I think it's okay.
Yeah, because you can put right in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then if you're a big damage, you get it strong. I don't know. Yeah.
Actually, I do think this card is quite cool. This is Raya Commandrin Rider, a 4-cost inkable, 3/3 that quest for 2. And she has the ability, come on, let's do this. Once during your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may ready another chosen character of yours. They can't quest for the rest of the turn. So we know that is a very powerful ability. Being able to do it multiple times throughout the game rather than just on play with something like LeFou is very, very powerful. You're going to be inking pretty much every turn, so you're going to be able to ready a character pretty much every turn whilst Raya is on the board. And I think this is a really cool one.
So that is interesting because once during your turn, so what you're saying is you could do your choices, your actions before inking.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can decide when during the process you are doing the act of inking.
Yeah.
And then at that point you're ready. So just make sure to play in the right order. Obviously at the same time as well, it's only once during your turn.
Yeah.
It won't stack up if for some reason you're playing this with Sapphire.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and next we have Goofy Flying Fool, a 6-cost uninkable, 5/5 that quest for 1. He has Rush. And he has evasive. So actually really, really good stats. The fact that he has evasive.
Yes.
He is uninkable, so that is a bit of a downside. But like he's almost like Maui, being able to rush in, but he can also quest.
Yep.
So I like the idea that he can rush in, challenge something with evasive, like a Diablo, and then he'll be hopefully free from being able to be challenged back. So
and it's interesting because there is not many methods of removing him either, and he is evasive, so it is harder to. As if you're using yourself and your opponents try to reach you. But it is expensive.
It is expensive. Next, we have Show the Way. This is a 2-cost inkable action. Your characters get +2 strength this turn. So if you need a little bit of extra strength to take out a location or something like that to take out a character, you've got it here. But
next.
Yeah, I think this one is quite boring, sorry to say. Okay, so we have John Darling, a Distinguished Swordsman, a 2-cost inkable, 1/4 that quest for 1. We saw some of the characters with the same stat line. Now we've got one in Ruby, so it is what it is. I think this one's just okay.
Pirate.
Yeah, he is a pirate. And we'll finish off in Ruby today with Jasmine, Rebellious Princess. She's a 3-cost inkable, a 2/3 that quest for 2, with the ability, you'll never miss it, which I thought was a line from Ursula. You'll never miss it. Whenever this character quests, each opponent loses 1 more. So this is actually, I think, for those Lord Reigning decks, when they do become kind of viable, being able to quest for 2 at a 2/3 stat line is actually quite good. But I think outside of that, there are probably better options to be.
And it's very fitting, right? Because we have that since the first chapter with Aladdin.
Yeah,
so they're just following the same ecosystem. I like it. Yeah. So should we populate this in the tracker?
Let's do it. So we'll update all of those cards. And then with that done, we're going to give it a second because there are so many for Ruby today. And then we are going to go over to Sapphire with, I think, another card that's a contender for the best card of the set. This is still the Azurite Sea, a 2-cost inkable action. This turn, you may put an additional card from your hand into your inkwell face down, draw a card. So quite a few things to talk about here. First, how it works. So it's like Bell's ability, so it allows you to ink an additional card in the turn. So it has to be inkable. You have to show your opponent. It doesn't get around the uninkability. But I think what's interesting is the sequencing of this action. So you can play this action, draw a card, and then decide later which card you want to ink in addition. So you don't need to ink and then draw the card. You get to play this, resolve it, draw the card, and then ink later. But why I think this one is so good is it's essentially a replacement for One Jump Ahead. Of course, One Jump Ahead is a song, but most of the time you're really not going to be singing it. You're going to be just playing it for ink. So it isn't that much of a downside that this is an action instead. The fact that this is inkable, one of the struggles for a lot of Sapphire decks is just having so many uninkable cards in those decks. So this frees up an uninkable slot for something more powerful. I just think this is a really, really strong card. I think this is going to pretty much replace One Jump Ahead in most decks.
Even though it's not a song. Yeah.
Even though it's not a song.
I do have a question, gameplay question.
Go on.
You're comparing to the Bell, I'm thinking Strange But Special
Yes.
from the first chapter. How come the card describes as facing down, but you still have to make sure that the card is inkable to be able to do so? Because face down does not mean that I do not need to show to my opponent. So they have to trust me that I'm making a card that is inkable.
No, you have to show it. It's because of the wording. You put an additional card into your inkwell. It's just a ruling, so it's something that I do agree. I think it's very ambiguous.
It's weird that it was face down, right? You don't have to say face down.
Yeah.
I suppose it's more to say it doesn't. You can even use it in the same turn, right? It's not exerted.
Yeah.
You're just gonna.
And that's another reason that this is quite as strong as it is, because you could play this on a turn, ink twice, and then be able to play another 2-cost card. So really, really, really cool card. I think this is definitely going to see a lot of play.
And it's throughout the turn as well, right? You could literally draw the card first, then decide to ink, which is another benefit. Yeah, very cool.
And finally, here's arrived. This is the 6th Hehe joining the last ink color, Sapphire. And he is Hehe Not So Tricky Chicken, a 2-cost inkable, a 2/2 that costs for 1. He has 2 abilities. The first one is Eat Anything. When you play this character, exert chosen opposing item. It can't ready at the start of its next turn. And Out to Lunch. During your turn, this character gains evasive. So actually, this has got a lot of utility. We've seen like these characters that gain evasive on your turn are good counters to certain cards like Diablos. Being able to exert an item so your opponent can't use it is a way to potentially slow them down.
Yeah.
You could use this against something like the Lucky Dime to slow them down a turn. But yeah, not much more to say about this card, but it is absolutely amazing.
That's the first time, right, that we see this type of effect?
I think
to exert and hold it in position, almost like freezing an item.
Yeah, I think so.
We see for characters, but not for items. So it's cool. Again, I'm gonna say my classic line. I just wish it was in a different color.
Of course.
So at least I don't need to remove. At least I'm just freezing. Give me a freeze item with Elsa and Amethyst. But amazing.
Maybe one day.
Maybe.
But it's amazing card. Always love seeing Hehe cards. Yes. So there he is. And another character that people have been asking for the longest time. It only took 6 sets, but we finally have Pleakley, Scientific Expert, a 3-cost inkable, 3/4 that costs for 1, with the ability of repausing for duty. When you play this character, put chosen character of yours into your inkwell, face down, and exerted. So another very cool ramp option for Sapphire. Sapphire is spoiled with the ramping options this set. So he could be, an inkable replacement for something like Mickey Mouse Detective, freeing up some of those uninkable slots. Another cool thing is you're inking a character from your board, not from your deck, so you don't risk kind of losing something valuable. I could see a world where you play Tipo on turn 2 and then play Pleakley on turn 3 to be able to then ink the Tipo you just played, because he's kind of lost his value at that point. One important thing to say about this is if you play Pleakley and you don't have a character in play, he's the only one, then you're going to have to ink him because this is in the May ability. So just be aware of that. But yeah, I thought this was a card that every Sapphire deck would probably add, and then I saw still the Azurite Sea, which I think is probably going to be more useful. But if there is that kind of meta where you need to be building the board presence, then maybe Pleakley is going to be a kind of a good.
He still got have a good stat line.
He does have a very good stat line.
So I can see the benefit of that. Can I just say the next Pleaky card has to be him in Drag Queen, please?
Yeah.
From the scene, just a Floodborn Pleaky and he's in drag.
And then next up we have Zipper, Astute Decoy, a 3-cost inkable, a 2/2 that costs for 2. He has Ward. And he has the ability Run Interference. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, another chosen character gains resist +1 until the start of your next turn. First things first, you have to check out the reveal for this Lorcana duo. It is the cutest reveal I think I've seen so far.
It's the best one.
And honestly, I don't know how their dog is so well trained. If we tried to do this with our dogs, it would be a disaster.
So that's Lorcana duo on Instagram.
Yeah, so definitely check them out. And then as a card, so it has that thing that I've complained about every time I see a Ward character these days. It's another ability that doesn't require the character to exert, and it's Ward. So it means that early game, a lot of ink colors aren't going to be able to interact with this card, which can be quite problematic. In terms of the ability, it is kind of a little bit like Cogsworth Grandfather Clock, being able to give resist to your characters. Again, you're going to be inking pretty much every turn, so you're always going to be giving this. Especially in Sapphire, inking multiple times in a turn, you could be giving this to different characters. I don't think it's as good as Cogsworth, and I think you have maybe better things you want to do on turn 3. But yeah, I think he has the potential to be problematic, just like all of these Ward characters. Yeah.
What is interesting as well, I think, if I'm not wrong, this is the second Sapphire card with the resist keyword, isn't it?
I think yes, yeah.
So they're finally embracing in full, I think, or hopefully going towards that way. Yeah.
Yes. And then next up we have Microbots. This is a 2-cost inkable item with 2 abilities. The first one is Limitless Applications. You may have any number of cards named Microbots in your deck, kind of like the Dalmatian puppy Tailwagger. And it also has Inspired Tech. When you play this item, chosen character gains -1 strength this turn for each item named Microbots you have in play. So yeah, this is potentially quite a cool one. It's something that you could banish with Hiram and then get back with Tamatoa. But we're going to see a card next that actually interacts with it, which is Yokai, a scientific supervillain. He is a 9-cost inkable 6/10 that costs for 2. He is a Floodborn, so he can shift in at 6, and he has 2 abilities. The first one is Neurotransmitter. You may play items named Microbots for free. And Technical Gain, whenever this character quests, draw a card for each opposing character with 0 strength. So yeah, you could be using those Microbots to basically take down your opponent's strength, to be able to then quest with him to be able to draw some cards. I don't think this is a card that will see much play. I think the setup is a little bit difficult. He is incredibly expensive. He is inkable, but I'm not so sure right now. But we do have a good Yokai shift target for him with the Enigmatic Inventor, and for sure we're going to build this deck just to have fun with this mechanic.
But to be fair, if you think about the other one as well, right, the baby one that you're gonna shift to, that ability is about bouncing back those items and paying less for our next item.
That's true.
So if you're like building towards the Microbots and you have the Microbots, you're gonna bounce it back. Then you can play a Lucky Dime way earlier in the game, and then that loop never ends, which is super cool. And I think he's gonna be another enchanted as well.
I really hope so. I think that enchanted might be the coolest looking enchanted. So we have the first of 2 Tadashi Hamada cards. This is Tadashi Hamada, Gifted Roboticist, a 3-cost uninkable, a 2/2 that quests for 2. And he has the ability, someone has to help. During an opponent's turn, when this character is banished, you may put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down. Then put this card into your inkwell face down as well. So I said Sapphire was getting so many amazing ramp options this set, and this is definitely another one. I would argue that he's a better version of Grandma Tala, Storyteller. She was a staple for the first few sets, maybe not seeing as much play anymore. But what I think's cool about this is he might not necessarily go into a Sapphire control deck, but we have seen a few aggro threats in Sapphire. So maybe he's going to fit more into an aggro Sapphire archetype where, you play him, you're questing him, and if your opponent chooses to banish him, then that's 2 extra cards in your inkwell for you to allow you to play more threats. So I do think this one is quite a cool card.
It is better as well. He has another keyword that Gramatala doesn't have, which is Inventor, right? And the fact that you can be focusing on questing.
Yeah.
And then if they do that, you punish them by banishing you. There's a lot of good cards on Sapphire, as I said. I think the hardest part for Sapphire will decide which ones to pick.
It's a nice problem to have.
Thank you, because that's the only thing that will stop them. But amazing. So cool to see Tadashi finally in the game.
Yes. And then the other Tadashi card we have is Baymax Inventor, a 6-cost inkable 3/3 that quests for 3 with the ability Let's Get Back to Work. This character gets +1 strength and +1 willpower for each item you have in play. So if Tadashi, the other Tadashi, was there for more aggro decks, I think this one is definitely the Tadashi you're going to be putting in your item decks. Being able to really buff up a character, like by the time you're playing a character for 6 ink, it's, you know, turn 4 usually for Sapphire decks. You've always got a few items in play by that point. So the fact that Tadashi just keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger, I think is very, very cool. And especially being able to quest for 3 as well, he is going to...
And don't forget the microbots, right? If you're playing the whole line of microbots, it's going to be so easy to just bring his strength.
But probably you're going to be just playing popsicles.
Exactly. But I want to believe in a world where microbots are all around.
And speaking of aggro threats for Sapphire, we have Xavier Happelman, or Hiram Flavisham to his friends, Curious Inventor, a 2-cost uninkable 0/2 that quests for 3. This is a new start line we're seeing, so the 0/2, which is really cool. We can compare this, of course, to the Olivia Flavisham, a 1/1 in Emerald. So this is Sapphire's version of that. So maybe, you know, Hiram and Tadashi, there's kind of a new archetype maybe emerging there, which would be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
And he's holding the gyro sensor, is he? Or is that something else? The picture quality is not the best, so don't quote us on it.
I actually don't know.
And another character we've been really waiting to see in the game and finally arriving is Ben, Eccentric Robot, a 4-cost inkable, 4/3 that quest for 2. And he has support, so it's a little bit maybe underwhelming, but he does have the robot and the pirate keyword, so maybe he'll fit into some decks. But I'm really hoping in my heart that we're going to see like a very, very cool version of Ben that could see some play, but I'm not sure it's this one, unfortunately. And then last but not least, for Sapphire today, we have Gadget Hackwrench Creative Thinker, a 3-cost inkable, 1/4 that quests for 1, with the ability Brainstorm. When you play an item, this character gets +1 lore this turn. So again, in Sapphire, you're going to be playing plenty of items, so this is potentially a good way to gain some lore from Gadget that way.
I think this is my favorite Gadget card visually.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to understand, is that a number Chromicon but with Gadget in front of it, with more technology attached to it? I think I'm not sure. I'm still looking for the hidden Mickeys of this set, so maybe there's something there. Just let us know down in the comment section. Beautiful. And there's kind of a hidden Mickey. The whole screw is like a Mickey hat. So I do like that.
It looks like the screw that they use on the Queen robot that they create in the Grey Mouse Detective. But I don't know if it is. Don't quote me. And imagine, I never thought about that. And
overlapping.
Yeah, we'll update the tracker, but I never thought about the Queen, the robot Queen, making it into Lorcana, and now that's everything I want in my life.
Oh my god, imagine that.
And okay, so we're going to go over to Steel, the last ink color today, and we're starting off with Mr. Smee, Captain of the Jolly Roger, a 6-cost uninkable, a 3/6 that quests for 2. Here's a Floodborn, so he can shift in at 4, and he has the ability Raise the Colors. When you play this character, you may deal damage to chosen character equal to the number of other pirate characters you have in play. So very cool. Like thematically, this one is amazing. Like Mr. Smee living out his dreams, becoming the captain of the Jolly Roger now that maybe Hook's not around. In terms of this card, very cool for pirate decks. Outside of pirate decks, I'm not so sure he's going to see play. As a 6-cost and inkable, he is kind of expensive. There are some shift targets for him.
Obviously, the most common Mr. Smee
exactly.
Steel Amber decks. It's interesting because then obviously he will stop being damaged as soon as you shift, but that damage will carry over. But at least he had a big willpower to defend himself.
I think the biggest problem with him is really just being uninkable. And the 3/6, he is, of course, dies to Medusa. like all steel cards die to Medusa.
Look at his amazing belt. It's like a steel belt. It's just super cool.
Yeah, super cool card. And next we're going to look at a card that fortunately doesn't die to Medusa. This is John Silver, Stern Captain. 8-cost, inkable, 6/6 that quest for 2. Also a Floodborn, so he shifts in at 5 and he has resist +2. And he has the ability, don't just sit there. At the start of your turn, deal 1 damage to each opposing ready character. So absolutely nutty card. I think, unlike Smee, which belongs really just in a pirate deck, I think John Silver, I think, is going to be seeing play probably in a Steel Sapphire deck, maybe a Steel Emerald deck where you want to be pinging the damage. But so much to say about him. Of course, resist +2, shifting in at 5. He is very comparable to Cinderella Stouthearted. Stats a little bit better. And yeah, his ability is really great. It's a good way to shut down kind of like an aggro on your opponent's side.
It is scary.
Because your opponent plays characters, and as soon as they pass the turn to you, if John Silver's on the board, they're already going to be starting to take damage, which is kind of crazy. As we saw earlier with the card that didn't ready the characters, it protected them from being challenged. Kanga, so that protects from something like John Silver, but it really puts your opponent in a bind because it's like, do I keep my characters ready, or do I, and they take damage, or do I exert them and then they can be challenged down? It gets around Ward, which I think is going to be a really good one. Like if Bucky was still a threat, then John Silver was going to be wiping out the.
Because you don't have to choose; it just naturally happens as long as it is ready.
Yeah.
So it is a beast.
It is a beast.
I think this and probably the Maui are the two big legendaries of this set. Oh, probably with Tiana as well. Yeah.
I think, and maybe the Genie. There are a lot of really good legendaries.
We always say that, and then we'll see later on. But there were a lot of bad ones as well.
There were,
for this set.
But I think this card's super cool. So very curious to see what gets built with it. And as I said, I think maybe Sapphire is the natural pairing. So joining John Silver, we have Jim Hawkins' Stubborn Cabin Boy. He's a 2-cost inkable 0 their quest for 1 with the ability come here, come here, come here. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, this character gains challenger +2. So this is a translation. We don't speak German, so it is an approximation. But if the effect works as translated, then it means that this challenger is just going to be stacking turn after turn after turn. So, if you're inking on turn 2, on turn 3, on turn 4, Jim can quickly become a 6/4 challenger, which is actually kind of crazy. Because initially I was comparing to something like Captain Hook. But the fact that he does just keep getting stronger and stronger, theoretically, again, this is a translation.
Because we didn't know if the during your turn is for when you do the action of putting the inkwell, or during your turn is how long the effect will last for.
I think
we're assuming it's the last.
Yeah, and I think if it was only this turn, it would just say Challenger +2 for this turn. Kind of like we saw with the Rafiki, who gets Challenger when he enters play. So we'll see. This card could be really cool. If that's the case, very cool card. If it's not the case, maybe slightly less cool. But not bad at all. And we still haven't seen the Jim Hawkins from the reveal video. So keep your eyes peeled. We have another Cobra Bubble. We have another Cobra Bubbles up next. Former CIA, 5-cost inkable, 3 their quest for 2. He's bodyguard, and he has the ability think about what's best. Pay 2, draw a card, then choose and discard a card. So another character there that lets you scry a bit through your deck in steel. But other than that, kind of unremarkable. I don't think he's the best bodyguard at that strength.
No, I don't think people would choose this, to be honest.
But the cool thing is it's another one of those effects you can keep doing multiple times.
You don't have to exert,
so it could potentially work, but I'm not so sure right now. We have another Kakamora. This is a long-range specialist, which is really cool. He's with his blow dart. This is a 1-cost uninkable 0/2 their quest for 1 with the ability A Little Help. When you play this character, if you have another pirate character in play, you may deal 1 damage to chosen character or location. So the blow dart makes sense. It is what it is. I think in a pirate deck, this could really work. Outside of that, not so sure. Next, we have Tuk Tuk Big Buddy, a 5-cost inkable 6/5 their quest for 1 vanilla. I think every Tuk Tuk card looks absolutely brilliant. And another one here. But yeah, not much to say about this one. Decent stats, I guess, for a 5-cost, but that's about it. And then we have Training Dummy up next. This is a 2-cost inkable item with the ability Handle with Care, Exert, pay 2, chosen character gains bodyguard until the start of your next turn. Could be quite a cool ability. It does feel a little bit expensive. Of course, we saw the Photosphere, which was a similar effect.
But you banish.
Comes in a bit early, but yeah, you have to banish the Photosphere, but often that's because you were recurring it. So even though the Photosphere saw play, it was mainly because it drew you a card.
Giving a card. But that alone is better than this.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not so sure about this one, but I absolutely love the art.
Yeah. And obviously this is from Hercules, if you don't know. But
yes.
Super cool.
And I think we saw it in one of the Hercules cards, right? The training dummy.
I think you're right.
Yeah, we'll show it on the screen now.
He always reminds me of the Super NES game.
Of course.
That's bringing the level. Yeah, it's super cute.
Next up, we have my favorite Disney song. It is I'm Still Here. This is the 3-cost inkable song. And chosen character gains resist +2 until the start of your next turn. draw a card. I think this one has a bunch of potential, not just because it's the song that I love. I do think it's really great. We know drawing a card is always a good thing. Being able to give resist is always a good thing.
It is a song.
And it's a song, yeah. So it could be sung twice by Ursula, Deceiver of All. We always say she just gets better and better the more 3-cost songs there are. But the synergy that was pointed out online on Twitter that I think is absolutely terrifying is with Diablo. If you shift Diablo on 2 and then you sing this song with him to give himself resist and draw a card, it just makes him even harder to get off the board. So that is something that's going to give me nightmares. And I definitely see this thing play. I'm going to try and get the full set of foils that I can use it in a deck. And really, really like this one.
It's beautiful.
And again, it's from Treasure Planet, in case people don't know.
Listen to the song.
Listen to the song. John Resnick, Goo Goo Dolls, very, very good song. And we're gonna end with probably one of our favorite reveals this set.
It is literally my favorite card in this.
As Matteo said, you get an aggro. Here's some steel aggro. This is Mr. Big, Shrewd Tycoon. He is a 4-cost uninkable 1/1 that quests for 3 with the ability Reputation. This character can't be challenged by characters with 2 strength or more, which is hilarious. So this is a really cool aggro threat for steel decks. One brilliant synergy. People always said that Gantu was the worst legend we've ever seen in the game, but here we go. Gantu has a payoff, because if you play Gantu, not only can characters with 2 strength or more not challenge, characters with 2 strength or less can't challenge. So you could just keep questing with Mr. Big. He can never be taken off the board. But
be a challenge.
Be a challenge.
It can be taken.
Yeah, more seriously, I do think this is a very good card. One important thing to point out about this interaction is the way challenging works is that any strength modifiers are checked after the challenge is initiated, which means that something like Captain Hook Forceful Duelist would be able to challenge Mr. Big because he only gets his +2 strength whilst challenging, which happens after the challenge has been initiated. You can also do funky things, like if your opponent has one of these, you can ice block one of your own characters to reduce their strength to allow them to challenge. So there are ways around it.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
But yeah, I do really love this card. It's just the art.
I'm going to start playing Steel just because of this card, because this is my favorite card. Zootopia, by the way, Zootopia.
If we get like an Owl Capone, you could have like a whole gangsters.
Can we do a sim deck?
With different gangsters from different franchises.
I do have a question as well. There was the Jafar from Shimmering Skies. There's the other synergy as well, again, along those lines of Gantu.
Yeah, I picked Gantu just because it's ridiculous, the card. But yeah, Jafar has a very similar synergy. Probably even better, right?
A better
He's
synergy,
a 6
that's what I
cost.
mean.
So,
Exactly.
So yeah, I could definitely see Mr. Big and Jafar maybe being together in some kind of crazy steel aggro deck.
So excited.
Yeah, so it's really cool. So we're going to update the tracker now with steel. And yeah, I think we're actually about 4/5 of the way through all of the cards last we checked. So there's only about 40 more to reveal.
Give or take. Probably one more video coming.
Yeah, and we still have 3 weeks.
I know.
3 weeks until the release.
Is there enchanted per every 3 days?
Yeah,
starting next week.
Yeah.
2 legendaries to go still. We're missing a steel legendary and we're missing a number legendary. Winnie the Pooh. So we'll see. We'll see what comes from that. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, and as always, if you like this video, if you found it useful, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe so that when we talk about the reveals for the next 40 cards, you're going to be the first to know about it. If you want to talk about the reveals, head over to our Discord. We're discussing those and sharing memes constantly. So yeah, come and hang out and join in the fun over there. And of course, a huge, massive thank you to our YouTube members who support the channel. They help us really raise the quality of every video we make. So we really, really do appreciate it.
And for everything else, stick to Inkborn Heroes. Happy questing.
Happy questing.